Namah Parvati Pataye Govindanam Sankirtanam
Om Narayanam Namaskritya Naranchaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet. Namaste everyone. So we'll continue with the story of the Mahabharata, which is in a very controversial juncture when that Maya Dyuta has happened. The game of Judah has happened between Pandavas and Duryodhana, represented by Shakuni. Dharmaraja has lost everything, and finally he even lost Draupadi. And then Duryodhana sends Pratikami to go and get Draupadi, as we were discussing last time. And so Pratikami goes and conveys to this completely she was unknowing. Draupadi, she had no idea, no clue about what was going on. Suddenly into the Antapura, Pratikami comes and tells her what has happened. Pandavas have lost everything, and they have lost you as well, and they are asking you to come to the court. And Draupadi was said, never in history have we heard anything like this. What is this? That actually husband has played his wife, has wagered his wife in a game of dice. Then she asks him, Gachatvam kitavam gatva sabhayam prucha sutaja kimna purvam parajaishir atmanam mamnu bharata. So, did he go to the sabha and ask, O Sutaja, he is a charioteer's son, Pratikami. Go, O Sutaja, and go and ask, did he lose himself and then wager me? Or did he wager me first and then lose himself? Because like we said last time, either way, it is, he had no right to do that. So with that Antarardha, she asks him to go ask that question in the sabha. Then when he goes and asks that question, very angry, Duryodhana says, go back and tell her we'll answer the question in the sabha itself. Go get her here. Then, then poor Draupadi is brought back by Pratikami. He tells her what they said, and so she is very hesitant because she is entering the Kuru Mahasabha, the Sabha of Dhritarashtra. She is the queen, and she is a daughter-in-law of the house. And there is a Sabha Maryada, how she should go there and all that. Suddenly they are asking her to come immediately from the Antapura. So very hesitantly, with distress, she comes towards the sabha, and she is standing far away, a little far away from there, not wanting to enter the sabha. And then Duryodhana, Pratikami dares not bring her or do anything. He is standing far away. And then Duryodhana sends Dusyasana. You bring her here. You drag her and bring her here. He orders her. He orders Dusyasana. And there, so this Draupadi is terrified. She is in distress. Tears are flowing through her eyes. She is in shock and distress. And she is like a lata, a creeper that is being shaken in the wind. And so she is shaking like that, and very sadly she is looking, and in her mind she can think only of Sri Krishna. Tato bravitam prasannam nigruhya. As she was there. Krishnancha Jishnancha Harin Narancha. She was only thinking about Sri Krishna. Only in half a sentence in Mahabharata, you hear how she took refuge. Pranaya. So she took refuge in Sri Krishna in that moment. Only in half a sentence it is mentioned. Again, throughout that episode, never Krishna is mentioned, never Draupadi's prayer is mentioned. Only in half a phrase. Krishnancha Jishnuncha Harim Narancha Pranaya. So taking refuge in Sri Krishna, she was there. And then then the evil Dushasana, who was totally overcome with arrogance and pride, came and held her came close to her and came to her to drag her. Then slowly Draupadi told him, "Oh Dushasana," he was a brother-in-law. "Oh Dushasana, I'm not in a state to come into the sabha. I'm not even dressed up. I'm in a ekavastra. I was in my antapura. And I'm also in that time of the month when I should not be touched. I should not go anywhere. This is the time. Don't come near me." Even then, sa krushyamana namitanga yashti shanair vachadya rajasvalasmi. So she said that, Ekancha vaso mama mandabuddhe. Oh foolish Dusyasana, sabham netum narhasi mam anaryam. This is very ignoble. Don't even do this. Even then, to her who was thinking about Sri Krishna, Dusyasana caught hold of her hair and started dragging her. That same hair which had been made pavitra by Rajasuya Yajna, all the Abhisheka had happened to that hair. So many mantras had been chanted for her, so much respect. Such a great queen. He started dragging her by the hair and brought her into the sabha. And as he brings her there, Draupadi looks at the entire sabha and with tears in her eyes, she says, "What happened to this whole race? What happened to this Bharata Vamsha? How can you pull me into this sabha like this, in this state, in front of Bhishma, Drona, Krupa, in front of all these people? I know Dharmaraja is always dharma. He would not do, even for a second, he wouldn't think of adharma. Such a dharmic person. I am his wife. How could you do this? How can you do this and bring me into this sabha like this? What has this whole race and this whole history of Bharata has been permanently blemished by this moment. Who can answer me? How dare you how could you allow this to happen? Nobody can open their mouth. They're all silent. Finally, Bhishma only says, "Talli, mother, I am helpless here. Only those who know Dharma Sukshma can understand why I cannot speak right now." And then, as she is saying that, then Bhima is enraged. He looks at Yudhishthira and says, "Whatever you could do, you could play dice and everything. Why did you have to wager Draupadi?" And he's so angry. He says, "Right now, I will burn your arms down because you threw that dice and wagered Draupadi." So enraged is Bhima. Bahute sampradakshami agnimanaya. Let me bring fire right now and burn down your arms. Like that, Bhima says to Yudhishthira. And then Arjuna pacifies him. "Bhima, who are you talking to? This is Dharmaraja. Never he goes against dharma. This whole situation is, fate has brought it to us. When he has his Rajadharma, when another king invites him to die, he has to go. That is the dharma. And so on, he explains the greatness of Dharmaraja and the dharma and calms him down. Meanwhile, while nobody is speaking up, Vikarna is the youngest of the Kauravas, Vikarna. He gets up. He says, I don't know why nobody is speaking up in this sabha. I am going to speak up. This hunting, juda, these kind of vyasanas are very, very bad. These are all very, you should not get attached to these things. It is very, very adharmic. What has happened here is terrible adharma. You had no right to do like this, play this kind of a dice game, juda, and this is all wealth and kingdom you have acquired in an adharmic fashion, and ultimately you even got Draupadi like this. This is not allowed. I am not supporting this. We should not do this. So he severely reprimands everyone and speaks up. And then how can you, because he says, how can you bring Draupadi like this in this state in an ekavastra like this? Then while others are keeping quiet, Karna, who has become so spoiled by the bad company of Duryodhana and Dusyasana, he speaks up for them. He starts and says unspeakable words. He speaks and says, this Draupadi, she is not fit to be. She has 5 husbands. She is not fit. She is not even having any character like that. He completely insults Draupadi in front of the sabha and says, for such a lady, ekavastra or even without vastra also, it doesn't matter. She can be brought in any state into this sabha. That he says that unspeakable words like that. And then hearing that word, this one, even without vastras and so on like that, Duryodhana, who was totally madanda now, he is garvandha, he has become blind with his arrogance and pride and having won so much in such a little, in a few minutes. He is blinded and he says, Karna, you are saying the right thing. Remove all the angavastras of the Pandavas and Draupadi. He orders Dusyasana. Pandavas immediately, they take off their angavastras and put them there without letting anybody come to them. And they are hanging their head in shame. And Dusyasana, this then, as is the most shocking incident in the whole of Bharata and in the whole of the history of Bharata Desha, Dusyasana starts pulling at the robe of Draupadi. But as everybody watches, to their amazement, as he goes on pulling, more and more vastras keeps coming. Right? And as he was pulling vastram, aparam vastram was just, he thought he had pulled one vastra, another vastra would come, and he could not disrobe Draupadi at all. Tadruma aparam vastram pradur asid anekashaha. Then he was going on pulling, and more vastra was just coming and appearing. And tad adbhutatamam loke vikshya sarva mahikshitam. All the people there, all the nobles and all the people there watch this miraculous sight, as they could not, Dusyasana simply could not dishonor Draupadi. He went on, he was doing that, and as he was doing that, Bhima became totally enraged, and he made a bhikara pratigya. So he said, his eyes started, he was blood red. He was so angry. He looked in front of all the sabha and said, this Duryodhana, who has dishonored Draupadi in this way, in front of everybody, in front of the Kuruvrudhas, in front of all the Pandavas, in front of all the sabha, he has dishonored Draupadi like this. I am going to I am making an oath now that never before anybody would have done, and never before anyone, never again anybody will. That kind of an oath I am taking. I will not even go to my forefathers. I will not belong to my race at all if I do not fulfill this oath. I am going to destroy the Duryodhana with my bare hands and drink his blood. So that is Dharuna Pratigya. He asya papasya durjater bharatapasadasya cha napibeyam balad vaksho bhitva ched udhiram yudhi. I am going to, in a terrible battle, I am going to completely destroy him with my bare hands, and bhitva ched udhiram yudhi, and I am going to drink his rudhira. So this way, and then people are stunned by this pratigya. And meanwhile, Duryodhana is going on trying to do this. He is very embarrassed, doesn't know whether to continue or stop. Because if he stops, he looks foolish. He has to continue, but nothing is happening. Finally, he goes on trying. That ropes become like a hill over there, and he collapses tired. So he is not able to do anything. So then, finally, they are looking like that. Then Draupadi again looks to the Kurusabha and says, how can you, once more she questions everybody, how could you allow this? How can you let this happen in front of the Sabha? And she is very, very sad, so totally forlorn and distressed. And she says, am I a dasi? Am I really a dasi? All of you are agreeing that I am like a dasi to these people, and they can do anything like this in front of the Sabha? This is what it has come down to? And then Karna again, without keeping quiet, he says, oh, Draupadi, you need not be a dasi. What is there? Duryodhana has won you. You can choose any of the Duryodhana or his brothers and marry them. You will be a queen. Like that, he again completely insults. And hearing that, again, Duryodhana becomes very arrogant, is intoxicated with arrogance, and he looks at Draupadi and shows his thigh. He opens up his thigh like this and says, come sit on my thigh. Because you are like my queen to me, come and sit on my thigh. And that time, as all of you know, Bhima makes a second pratigya, Bhikara pratigya. He says, that wonderful Draupadi, if you are asking her to come and show, if you are making this terrible gesture of asking her to come and sit on your thigh, I'm going to, with my terrible gada in battle, I'm going to destroy that thigh of yours. And that way, again, when Bhima makes that terrible pratigya, many bad omens come up. There is hyenas are wailing, and all kinds of bad omens appear at that time. And Bhishma, Vidura, everybody realized this is the start of the decline and disaster for this whole kingdom, and for this king and this whole family. And as they were, and everybody is shocked. Of course, Dhritarashtra is only partly hearing; he can't see, but there are all kinds of bad omens appearing. And then, at that time, Gandhari comes there. And Gandhari, hearing all this, rushes to the court and understands what has happened. And she, with no uncertain terms, says this is extremely adharmic. She scolds Duryodhana. She scolds the entire sabha. She says, she stands up for women and for her daughter-in-law. And says, this is absolutely adharma and unacceptable, and she gives them a complete, she blasts all of them. And then Gandhari and Vidura go and explain to Dhritarashtra what kind of bad omens are appearing. And Gandhari tells him also, you have done a very adharmic act you have performed here. Then Dhritarashtra, terrified by all of this, turns to the Pandavas, turns to Draupadi and says, as if he just understood what happened, oh, Draupadi, very, very sorry this is happening and this kind of thing has happened here. Oh, my dear daughter-in-law, ask me any vara, any boon that you want. Then Draupadi bows to him and says, the great Dharmaraja, may he be immediately be freed of his dasya. And may he become free of this dasya that has been imposed upon him. Then, so immediately he says, okay, he's not a slave anymore. He has dasya mukti. Then he asks, oh, Draupadi, ask a second boon. Then Draupadi says, may the 4 remaining Pandavas get back their weapons and radhas, their chariots and their weapons. And may they also be freed of this dasya. So immediately he grants that also. And then says, oh, my dear daughter-in-law, ask me a third boon. Then Draupadi says, according to the dharmas of Kshatriya Patnis, I am a queen. I am belonging to Kshatriya race. We are allowed only to ask 2 boons at any time. We can't ask more than 2. That is our dharma. And we should never have greed. We should not be asking more than we deserve. I shall not ask anything more. Dhritarashtra, in such a situation also, after being dishonored so much, she is standing for dharma. He is very, very impressed and blesses her and says, oh, Draupadi, without your asking, I am giving you the boon. All the Pandavas, I am freeing them. I am giving them back their kingdom. I am giving them everything they have lost in Dyuta. So effectively, everything that was done in the Dyuta, he declares as null and void and gives everything back to Pandavas and says, oh, Dharmaraja, I am an old man. I am a blind man. I don't know sometimes what is happening. Some terrible things have happened here. My sons have done some terrible things to you and done very immoral things. Please don't keep them in your heart. Don't have any grudge towards them. You please go back to your kingdom and live happily. So saying, he sends them away. And they all go back to Indraprastha. And naturally, Duryodhana is terribly angry. He had plotted all this. He had discussed with Dhritarashtra. He had made Dhritarashtra invite them. And yet, they had come back. And at the end of it, he had succumbed to his dharmic ways, according to Duryodhana, and sent them back. He says, you have to call them back. You can't let this happen. I wanted to defeat them. You are supporting me. Now you have sent all of them. You have to support me. This time we'll make it simple. And he explains exactly what he wants to do, he and Shakuni. Then he is such a putra vyamoha. He has so much attachment to his son. And although he knows dharma, this is the character of the Dhritarashtra that's shown again and again in the Bharata. He is so confused. He knows dharma, he has too much attachment to his son. And he keeps doing, he says dharmic things, but he does adharma. So, listening to him, he sends Pratikami again to Indraprastha and invites Pandavas again for Punardyuta, for a repeat game of Juda. And now clearly, Yudhishthira knows exactly what is happening. Yatechanti tathaivastu tatyagachantu Pandavaha Punardyutam prakurvantu mamakaha Pandavai saha. That is the order of the Dhritarashtra. Mamakaha Pandavai saha Punadyutam Prakurvantu Bhavatu. That is, and then finally they come, they play. This time Shakuni says there is only one, and he explains very clearly. 12 years you will have to go to the forest if you lose this. If we lose, we will go to the forest. And after 12 years, you have to have 1 year of Ajñātavāsa. Nobody should be able to recognize you for 1 year. If not, if you are recognized and you are found in that 1 year, you have to go back again for 12 years to Vanavasa. So in this way, they make that wager. This is already pre-planned. Everything was pre-planned with Dhritarashtra. With his agreement only, they get him there. And in just one wager, 12 years Vanavasa, 1 year Ajñātavāsa with, if the Ajñātavāsa is broken, they go back to Vanavasa again. With that wager, they roll the dice, and of course, Shakuni wins again, and the Pandavas are banished to the forest. In this way, in that, God started with the amazing sabha of Yudhishthira, where the great Rajasuya happens. In this very adharmic sabha of Duryodhana, the sabha parva concludes with the Pandavas being sent to the forest. In this amazing turn of events that happens in the Bharata. Today we had a long session. It was a very important ghatta, and we can remember all of this. And so many lessons to be learned as we reflect on this story about in every way that is applicable to this day and to all time, but especially in this day and age. There are so many lessons that we learn from this amazing episode in the Mahabharata, which is the fulcrum of that whole story. From this episode, everything follows. Everything leads up to this, and everything follows from this. The whole basis of the Kurukshetra Yuddha was this terrible episode that happened in the sabha of Duryodhana. That will then, from next time, we will go into the Aranya Parva and see how the great Pandavas continue in their path of dharma, independent of where they are. Whether they are in a palace or in their forest, like the great Sri Ramachandra, they are always shining because of their dharma, which they follow everywhere. Thinking of them, Om Narayanam Namaskritya Naranchaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet.